Good afternoon to all the EAPCET aspirants. Here we are in our last chapter from our 11th standard. Today we are going to deal with ecological adaptations, ecological succession and ecological services, of which I have picked ecological succession to discuss today because this is the most important concept from that chapter. Both ecological succession and ecological adaptations we are going to deal in the next class. Ecological succession, in today's class we will learn like what is ecological succession actually means, and what is primary succession, what is secondary succession, what is Xerarch succession, what is Hydrarch succession with the examples. So, here we will see what are the key takeaways of today's lecture. First is ecological succession. Based on the area of origin, we have two types. One is primary succession and one is secondary succession. And ecological succession, which is based on the plant habitat. If it is in the desert, we will address it as Xerarch succession. If it is in water habitat, we will address it as Hydrarch succession. And lastly, we are going to discuss about ecosystem services. Now, once we see the ecological organization from organisms to biosphere, once we will highlight the living organization as well. Okay. Hierarchy of organization in living organism also we will see. If we see first, the fundamental and basic unit of life will be cell, right, and group of cells will accompany together and they will be forming up what? Tissues. Group of tissues forms tissue systems. Group of tissue systems will form up into an organ. Organs group up to form organ system, and then to an organism, and then group of organisms living together at a place is population. Different here you can see, right, from organism itself it is there. Okay. So, this is basic hierarchy in a living organism, starting from cell to organism. Cell, group of cells which can have common origin, structurally similar or dissimilar, but functionally same. Okay. Group of cells which can be structurally similar or dissimilar, but they have common origin and function. Such cells will group up to form what? Tissue. Group of tissues will form up what? Tissue systems. Group of tissues will form up tissue systems, followed by group of tissue systems organized to an organ and organs to an organ system, then to an organism. Here organisms, group of organisms will form a population, and different populations in a common habitat, they will turn to form a community. Different communities will form ecosystem and then biome, lastly biosphere. Fine, right? What is ecosystem exactly? What is ecology? Nothing but study of living organisms and their interactions with the environment is included in ecology. Okay? And these are the various levels of ecological organization. This is living organization and this will be ecological organization. I have included because this will be more clear to you. If you can learn it from cell to biosphere level, the hierarchy of organization, then it will be crystal clear in your mind about different levels of organization, both up to organism and from organism to biosphere, that is ecological organization, because from here organism interacts with the environment. Fine, right? These are the levels of ecological organization. You can take a screenshot of this beta and then we will move on to ecosystem. Here we go with ecosystem. Ecosystem is composed of biological community along with physical environment. organisms of different communities, they will depend on each other, they also depend on their environment. Okay. So, interaction of organisms amongst themselves and with environment, that we will read it under ecosystem. Now, we will directly move on to ecological succession. It is the gradual and very predictable change of species composition of any given area. In any given area, the gradual and very predictable change that we see, okay, in any given area is addressed as what? Ecological succession. As we have discussed, based on the origin, it can be of two types. One is primary succession, second one is secondary succession. Complete succession process will take place in an orderly manner and a sequential manner. Okay. So, succession and evolution are ideally, they are parallel processes. Here we go with primary succession. This occurs in an area which has been bare from the beginning. Here the succession starts from in an area which is bare from the beginning. Secondary succession will occur in an area where there is natural biotic communities have been destroyed already. The area in which natural biotic communities have already destroyed, in that area new organisms started growing, right. That type of succession is called as secondary succession. So, primary succession occurs in a bare land, secondary succession occurs in the land which is previously destructed, fine, right, previously destructed by any natural calamities. Okay. Over that land if life is starting to grow, that is called as secondary succession. Clear with the succession beta? Clear with the definition of succession? It is an orderly and sequential process. Based on origin, what types we have? Next, primary succession. So, here if you see, succession starts in an area where there are few or no living organisms at all, because primary succession occurs on the bare rock or on the bare land. Here they are newly composed of what? Sea floor, newly cooled lava sediments, newly created pond or reservoir. Over such, these are newly formed, okay, as it occurs on the bare rock, okay, it occurs on the bare rock. Pioneer species. So, what is that actually starting the process of succession? Pioneer species are addressed as the first biotic community which will develop on the bare area. Mostly pioneer species will be lichens, okay, they will be lichens, fine, right. Clear till here about primary succession? Now, you have to know about these two terms. You know, pioneer species. Pioneer species are those species which are starting up the process of succession, and lichens are the best examples of pioneer species. Here next things you have to address is series. It is an entire sequence of communities that successively change in a given area. They will successively change in a given area. Next is seral stage. Seral stage, they are the individual transitional communities. They are individual transitional communities. Following things occur during different seral stages. Like if you see, diversification of species, increase in number of species and increase in total biomass, fine, right. These are the seral stages. First starting from pioneer species, next what are different stages that occur, each stage is addressed as a seral stage. Like you will observe diversification of species, increase in the number of species and at last increase in the total biomass. You can clearly see it in the picture. Like beginner plants, they will appear like this. After complete biomass development, this is the area that you see after the process of succession. Clear till here, ma? Now, what is climax community? After succession, you will see this climax community. What is this? It is the community that forms as a result of ecological succession. Okay? The final community that is formed as a result of ecological succession is addressed as climax community. and it is in near equilibrium with the environment. It is in near equilibrium with environment. And then here we go. At any time during primary or secondary succession, at any time, natural or human induced disturbances can convert a particular seral stage of a succession to an earlier stage again. Okay, this is the important point to be noted. At any serial stage, if the destruction happens, then again the succession has to be begin from the beginning. Okay. And then now we will move on to secondary succession. Secondary succession, if you see, this is recolonization of habitats. So, this occurs on the land or area where that is already destructed. On that area the life is regrowing, restarting to grow, right. So, here secondary succession is recolonization of the habitats of plants and animals after major disturbances like abandoned farmland land, flooded land, deforested land or forest fire. Because of any of these calamities, the destruction that happens on the land, the life will build again. That process of succession is secondary succession, which is recolonization of habitats. Fine, right? Now, these are the major points of secondary succession. After disturbance, the vegetation is lost, only soil is left, right, only soil is present after destruction. Small plants like grasses slowly start growing here. First grasses like small plants, they will start growing here. Later bigger plants like shrubs will appear. Okay, bigger plants like shrubs will appear. With time, trees appear to reach the climax community. Trees will appear to reach the climax community at the end. For example, forest is the best example that I can give you. Clear, right? Now, ecological succession based on the type of plant habitat. Till now we have seen two types of succession. One is primary and secondary, that is based on the origin of succession. Now, we will learn the succession based on the type of plant habitats. We have two types of succession. One is Xerarch succession, second one will be Hydrarch succession. Xerarch succession, this is the ecological succession in dry areas. Okay, ecological succession that occurs in dry areas. This Hydrarch succession, ecological succession that occurs in the wet areas. Clear, right? So, this is mesic condition where succession is occurring in the dry areas from xeric to mesic condition, and Hydrarch succession also, which happens in the wet areas also, it finally turns into what? Mesic condition into mesophytes. Clear till here? Any doubt anywhere, ma? Now, Xerarch succession, stage 1, lichen stage. I said you right, in Xerarch succession or Hydrarch succession, the pioneer species will be lichens. So, here if you see lichens, first seral stage is what? Lichen stage. Lichens are symbiotic association between what? Algae and fungi. Algae is addressed as phycobiont and fungi is addressed as mycobiont. Algal component will be just 5%, ma. Fungal component will be around 95%. Okay. Here in this symbiotic association, algal complement will supplement the mycobiont, that is fungi, with nutrition, and fungi will provide shelter to algae. Fungi will provide shelter to algae. Clear, right? Now, as they are starting up the process of succession, they are addressed as what? Pioneer species. They can tolerate desiccation, excessive heat, cold temperatures, excessive heat and cold temperatures. They secrete acids to dissolve rock from the soil. Fine, right? This process is called as withering. This process is addressed as what? Withering. Fine, right? They secrete acids to dissolve rock from the soil. This process is addressed as withering. So, you are clear with stage 1, right? This is the first seral stage, okay, that is lichen stage. where lichen is the association of phycobiont and mycobiont. These are the pioneer species. They will tolerate any kind of stress like cold temperatures, excessive heat and desiccation, and they will secrete acids to dissolve these bare rocks. That process is addressed as withering. Remember the statements carefully, because we may expect the questions like multi-statement questions followed by assertion reason questions as well. So, look into that carefully and address each statement properly at each seral stage. Here we will move on to stage 2, that is moss stage. Here mosses help in withering, further withering. First, this withering starts at the end of stage 1, and mosses which are present in the stage 2, this is addressed as moss stage, where bryophytes will completely form like a dense mat on these rocks. Okay. Mosses will form like what ma? Dense mat. Mosses will form like a dense mat over the rock. Okay. So, they provide organic matter and they will bring and retain the moisture over here. Next, Xerarch succession. This is stage 3 grass stage, okay, stage 3 which is grass stage. Fine, right? The roots of grasses here, they will penetrate the rocks and they will contribute to the process of withering. They will provide shade to small plants, okay, they will provide shade to small plants. Fine, right? This is stage 3, that is grass stage. The roots of grasses will penetrate to the rocks and they will contribute to weathering. They provide shade to small plants. Next, stage 4 is shrub stage. Okay. The roots of shrubs penetrate into the rocks and they contribute to withering over here. They will provide shade for large animals. Okay. They will provide shade for large animals. Till here it is clear, right? Stage 1 is lichen stage, 2 is moss stage, 3 is grass stage and 4th is shrub stage. Clear ma? Just go through this carefully. Now, Xerarch succession, sorry, stage 5, Xerarch succession stage 5, forest stage, okay, where tree begins to grow completely, the land can turn into conifers, deciduous or temperate forest totally. Fine, right? So, first is you are having lichen stage, followed by moss stage, third is grass stage, fourth will be shrub stage and fifth is forest stage, which is climax stage. Okay. On total, how many seral stages that you have come across beta? 5 seral stages in Xerarch succession. Fine, right? 5 seral stages. First will be lichen stage. At the end of lichen stage, withering happens and that will be continued by moss stage. In moss stage, it will be continued by mosses. Followed by third stage is what ma? Grass stage. Followed by shrub stage. Followed by forest stage. Fine, right? Yeah. Now, Hydrarch succession, this is stage 1 plankton stage. Fine, right? Plankton stage. Phytoplanktons are pioneer species. Okay, these are pioneer species. The death of these organisms will provide organic matter. Fine, right? The death of these organisms will provide organic matter to the next stage. Till here it is clear, right ma? And then Hydrarch succession stage 2. Stage 2, this is submerged plant stage. submerged plant stage. Submerged plants are rooted in the bottom mud layer. The death of these organisms will provide organic matter. Water will become shallower here. This is the second stage, submerged plant stage, followed by third stage, that is submerged free floating plant stage. Fine, right? First, second is submerged stage. Next, plants will come above the submerged level, but they will not touch to the periphery of the water. These are submerged free floating plants, where free floating plants will provide minerals and organic matter, and water will become shallower in the periphery. Can you see? Water will become shallower in the periphery, and then followed by stage 4, that is swamp stage. Here amphibious plants will start growth. Amphibious plants are what? Pteridophytes, right? Mosses and ferns. Fine, right? Amphibious plants will start growing here, okay, as they depend on the water for fertilization. They will depend on water for fertilization. They transpire large amounts of water, they produce organic matter, and their tangled roots will accumulate silt here. Okay, their tangled roots will accumulate silt here. So, in which stage do you observe amphibious plants? Amphibious plants are identified in reed swamp stage. Remember, they will transpire large amounts of water and they require water for fertilization. They will produce organic matter, and tangled roots over here will accumulate silt, followed by shrub stage. Shrubs here, they can tolerate sunlight and waterlogged conditions. Okay, shrubs here can tolerate sunlight and waterlogged conditions. They transpire large amount of water here. They will transpire large amount of water, and they add organic matter to bottom layer. They will add organic matter to the bottom layer. Till here it is clear, right, ma? And then we will move on to forest stage. This is the climax stage. Trees will begin to grow here completely. Trees begins to grow. The land can turn into coniferous, deciduous and temperate forest. Land will turn to coniferous, deciduous or temperate forest. Followed by, so this is the complete stage, stages, seral stages in Hydrarch succession. Like how we have 5 seral stages in Xerarch succession, let us once recall the stages that are present in the Hydrarch succession. So, the first stage over here is plankton stage. Fine, right? First stage in Xerarch succession will be what, ma? Lichen stage. Here the first stage is plankton stage. Second, submerged plant stage. Third, submerged free floating stage. Fine, right. Fourth will be reed swamp stage. Fifth will be shrub stage, and last it will be forest stage. Fine, right? Clear till here, ma? Any doubts anywhere? Remember all the seral stages properly, and what are the events that are happening at each seral stage is important. Okay? Done, right? So, this ends the concept of Hydrarch succession. Now, we will move on to ecological services. Fine, right? Ecological services. They are the products of ecosystem. Fine, right? These are the products of ecosystem processes which are beneficial to humans. Those are addressed as ecological services or ecosystem services. As such, ecosystem is providing four types of services. Here first you can see supporting type of service. Supporting type of service includes soil formation, biodiversity, habitat to different plants and animals, and photosynthesis. Next, cultural, fine, right, includes aesthetics, spirituality, reincarnation, education, fine, right. Next, regulating type of services includes pollination, cleaning water and air, climate regulation, food control. Last, provisional services, okay, which includes water, food, medicine and raw material. Rarely you will get a question from ecosystem services, but have an idea on what types of services that are provided by ecosystem. You can take a screenshot of this, ma. Now, we will move on to the graphical representation of ecosystem services. Among the products of ecosystem processes, soil formation is most beneficial ecosystem service. Okay, amongst this, what is most important ecosystem service? Soil formation. Okay, soil formation is the most important ecosystem service here. Okay, so here if you see percentage of service, soil formation is around 50, it is showing around 50% of service. All the others like climate regulation, habitat and wildlife reincarnation, that is below 10%. Okay. So, highest ecosystem service is what, ma? Soil formation. Now, at the end if we can see the summary of what we have learnt. Ecosystem services, before that we have learnt about ecological succession. Two types of ecological succession, right? One is based on the area of origin, we have primary succession and secondary succession. Primary succession occurs in an area which has bare from the beginning, Secondary succession occurs in an area where natural biotic communities have been destroyed. Here we go with ecological succession. It is gradual and very predictable change in species composition of given area. Here Xerarch succession. Ecological succession in a dry areas include like lichen stage, moss stage, grass, shrub and forest stage. These are the seral stages. If you see in Hydrarch succession, what are the seral stages? You have to keenly remember which stage is coming after what. That is very important. Here if you see Hydrarch succession, ecological succession in wet areas will include, first it will start with plankton stage here, like how you see lichen stages are the pioneer stage in the Xerarch succession. Plankton stage is the first pioneer species that are starting succession in Hydrarch succession. Next is submerged plant stage, followed by submerged free floating plant stage, reed swamp stage, shrub stage and forest stage. These are the 6 stages that you see in Hydrarch succession. Clear till here, ma? Any doubt anywhere? Yeah. At the end if you see clear differences, crystal clear differences between primary and secondary succession. Okay. Yeah, just a second. Yeah, it's okay. Here we go with primary and secondary succession differences. First, this occurs in barren lands, whereas this occurs on the land which is destroyed by some natural biotic calamity. And here soil is absent and is formed during the course of succession. Some soil and microbes will be present over here, okay, because this is destructed land. And here pioneer communities, initial species are what? Migrants all the time. Here pioneer communities are already present in the land. Lastly, many seral communities are formed over here. Here only few seral communities will be formed. This takes 1000 years or more, and this will take 50 to 200 years or more. Fine, right? These are the clear differences between primary succession and secondary succession. So, now we got an idea on succession, and then ecological services, ecosystem services, and we are left over with ecological adaptations, which is again important component here. In our next class, we will be dealing with ecological adaptations, followed by EAPCET previous year questions from biomolecules and ecological adaptations, succession and services. These two chapters we are going to solve EAPCET questions. So, come prepared for the next class, right ma? So, that is all for today's session, and thank you.